"Your daughter doesn't deserve college," my mother announced. She'd already withdrawn the funds. I was stunned, staring at the empty account on my laptop screen. When I discovered what she'd really done with Rachel's college money, I realized my mother had been playing a decades-long game I never knew I was part of. This is the story of how I lost $47,000, gained clarity, and saved my daughter's future. It was supposed to be a celebration dinner. Rachel had just gotten her acceptance letter to Northwestern University, her dream school. She'd worked 4 years for this moment, maintaining a 4.2 GPA while juggling debate team, volunteer work at the animal shelter, and a part-time job at the local coffee shop in Willowbrook. We'd planned to meet at Rosewood Bistro, the fancy place downtown that my mother, Victoria, had insisted on. "Only the best for our college girl," she'd said over the phone, her voice dripping with that particular brand of enthusiasm that should have been my first warning sign. I arrived early, parking my Honda outside the restaurant in downtown Willowbrook. The late afternoon sun was casting long shadows across the tree-lined street, and everything felt perfect. Rachel was 18, brilliant, and about to start the next chapter of her life. I had $47,000 sitting in an education savings account that my mother had helped me set up when Rachel was born, money we'd both contributed to over the years. That should have been my second warning sign. My mother never helped with anything unless there was something in it for her. But I was 30 years old, a single mother who had been working 2 jobs to support my daughter since her father, David, walked out when she was 3. I was grateful for any help, especially from family. Especially from the woman who had raised me to believe that gratitude was the rent you paid for existing in her world. The restaurant was bustling with the usual Friday evening crowd, families celebrating promotions, couples on date nights, business dinners winding down. I checked my phone. Rachel was running late from her shift at Moonbeam Coffee, and Victoria hadn't arrived yet either. I ordered a glass of wine and settled in to wait, scrolling through Rachel's acceptance email for the 100th time. Northwestern, full-ride academic scholarship covering tuition, but we still needed money for room, board, books, and living expenses. The $47,000 in the education savings account would cover most of it. Between that and Rachel's part-time job, she'd graduate debt-free. It was everything I dreamed of for her, everything I never had. When I was 18, college wasn't even a conversation in our house. Victoria had made it clear that education beyond high school was a luxury we couldn't afford, despite the fact that she and my stepfather Harold somehow always had money for their annual cruise to the Caribbean, their weekly dinners at expensive restaurants, and Victoria's ever-expanding collection of designer handbags. "College is for people who don't know how to make money in the real world," she'd said when I brought up the idea of applying to State University. "You're smart enough to figure it out without wasting 4 years and going into debt." So I figured it out. Worked at a dental office during the day, took night classes at the community college, and eventually earned my associate's degree in business administration. It took me 6 years to finish what most people do in 2, but I did it. And when I found out I was pregnant with Rachel at 24, I promised myself she'd have every opportunity I didn't. The education savings account was my way of keeping that promise. I'd started it when Rachel was born, contributing $200 a month religiously, even when it meant eating ramen for dinner 3 nights a week. Victoria had offered to help when Rachel turned 10, insisting she wanted to contribute to her granddaughter's future. "Let me add my name to the account," she'd said. "That way I can make larger contributions without having to go through you every time. It'll be easier for tax purposes, too." I hesitated. Something about the request felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on why. Victoria had seemed genuinely interested in Rachel's education, asking about her grades, attending school events when she could, and the financial help would make a real difference. "Are you sure?" I asked. "It's a big commitment." "Absolutely," Victoria replied, that same enthusiastic tone she'd used on the phone about tonight's dinner. "Rachel is my only granddaughter. I want to invest in her future." So I added her name to the account. Victoria had been as good as her word, contributing $300 to $500 a month for the past 8 years. Between her contributions and mine, we'd built up a substantial college fund. I'd checked the balance just last week, $47,283.16. The restaurant door chimed, and Rachel walked in, still wearing her Moonbeam coffee apron, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. She spotted me immediately and broke into the smile that had been lighting up my world for 18 years. "Sorry I'm late, Mom," she said, sliding into the booth across from me.
Grandmother Victoria should be here any minute. Rachel's expression shifted slightly. It was subtle, a barely perceptible tightening around her eyes, but I caught it. Rachel had always been polite to Victoria, respectful, but there was a distance there that I'd never quite understood. When I'd asked about it once, Rachel had just shrugged.
She's fine, Mom. Just intense sometimes. I'd let it go. Victoria could be overwhelming, especially to a teenager. She had opinions about everything: Rachel's clothes, her choice of friends, her extracurricular activities. But she was family, and she'd been contributing to Rachel's college fund for years. Whatever minor personality conflicts existed seemed insignificant compared to that level of financial support. "Did you bring the acceptance letter?" I asked. Rachel pulled a folder from her backpack and slid it across the table. "Hard copy and everything. I still can't believe it's real." I opened the folder and looked at the Northwestern letterhead for what felt like the millionth time. Early admission with academic scholarship. "Rachel Elizabeth Torres, you are extraordinary." She blushed, but I could see the pride in her eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. All those times you helped me with applications, drove me to debate tournaments, let me quit my job during finals week." "That's what mothers do," I said, though I knew it wasn't always true. My own mother had rarely made sacrifices for my benefit. But Rachel didn't need to know that. She deserved to believe that unconditional support was normal, that it was what she could expect from the world. The door chimed again, and Victoria made her entrance. At 62, she was still striking. Perfectly styled silver hair, designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about money. She spotted us immediately and walked over with the purposeful stride of someone accustomed to being the center of attention. "My brilliant granddaughter," she announced loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "Northwestern University! I'm so proud." Rachel stood to hug her, and Victoria enveloped her in the kind of dramatic embrace that seemed designed more for the audience than the recipient. "Thank you, Grandmother Victoria," Rachel said, her voice carrying that same polite distance I'd noticed earlier. Victoria slid into the booth next to me, immediately commanding the space. "I've been telling everyone about Rachel's acceptance, the ladies at the country club, my book club, even my hairdresser. A full academic scholarship. Not everyone can say their granddaughter is attending one of the top universities in the country." I smiled, but something about the way she said it bothered me. It felt less like pride in Rachel's accomplishment and more like pride in her own association with it. But maybe I was being overly sensitive. Victoria had always been dramatic. We ordered dinner: salmon for Victoria, chicken parmesan for Rachel, and a salad for me. The conversation flowed easily enough, with Victoria dominating most of it with stories about her recent trip to Napa Valley with Harold and her opinions about Rachel's major choice. "Business administration is practical, though I still think you should consider pre-law. Lawyers make excellent money, and with your debate skills—" "I like business, Grandmother Victoria," Rachel said patiently. "I want to start my own company someday, maybe something in sustainable fashion or eco-friendly products." Victoria's expression shifted slightly, a barely perceptible tightening around her mouth. "Well, that's very idealistic. But you'll learn that making money and saving the world don't always go hand in hand." I felt my Rachel tense beside me and decided to change the subject. "Speaking of money, I wanted to talk about the college fund. With room and board, books, and living expenses, we'll need to start making withdrawals soon. I was thinking we could set up a payment plan with the university." Victoria's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "About that, we need to discuss some changes to the account." Something cold settled in my stomach. "Changes?" "Well, Harold and I have been talking, and we're concerned about Rachel's priorities." "What do you mean?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. Victoria set down her fork and turned to face Rachel directly. "Sweetheart, your grandmother loves you very much, but we're worried that you're not taking this opportunity as seriously as you should be." Rachel blinked, confused. "I don't understand. I worked really hard to get into Northwestern."
"Oh, we know you're smart," Victoria said, her tone patronizing in a way that made my jaw clench. But intelligence isn't everything. Character matters, values matter. And frankly, we're not convinced you're ready for the responsibility that comes with a college education. I felt like I was watching a car accident in slow motion. "Victoria, what are you saying?" She turned to me with that same patronizing smile. "I'm saying that perhaps Rachel needs to demonstrate more maturity before she's handed a free ride to college. Maybe a gap year would be beneficial. Time to think about what she really wants, to grow up a little."
A gap year? Rachel's voice was barely above a whisper. But Northwestern won't hold my scholarship. If I defer admission, I lose the academic award. Then maybe Northwestern isn't the right fit, Victoria said calmly. Community college is perfectly respectable. More practical, really, and much less expensive. The restaurant noise faded into background static. I stared at Victoria, trying to process what she was saying. You want Rachel to give up a full scholarship to Northwestern University and go to community college instead? I want Rachel to prove she's mature enough to handle the privilege of higher education. And frankly, I don't think she's there yet. That's not your decision to make, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Victoria's smile faltered slightly. Actually, it is. You see, I've made a decision about the education fund. The cold feeling in my stomach spread to my chest. What kind of decision? I've withdrawn the money. The words hit me like a physical blow. You've what? The funds have been moved to a different account, one that I control completely. Until Rachel demonstrates the maturity and values that Harold and I expect from our investment, the money will remain frozen. Rachel had gone completely pale. Grandmother Victoria, please. I've worked so hard for this. Northwestern is my dream school. Dreams are lovely, sweetheart, but reality is more important. You can reapply next year after you've had time to reassess your priorities. You can't do this, I said, though even as the words left my mouth, I realized she probably could. Her name was on the account. Legally, she likely had every right to withdraw the funds. I can, and I have, Victoria said. The money is gone, Megan, and it will stay gone until Rachel proves she deserves it. The restaurant continued buzzing around us, oblivious to the fact that my daughter's future had just been destroyed over salmon and designer handbags. I looked at Rachel, who was staring at her untouched dinner with tears in her eyes. What would it take? I asked quietly. What exactly would Rachel need to do to prove herself worthy of her own college fund? Victoria's smile returned, triumphant and cold. Well, for starters, she could stop associating with that mechanic boy. A girl planning to attend Northwestern shouldn't be dating someone so beneath her station. And the environmental activism needs to stop completely. It's embarrassing, all that tree-hugging nonsense. Makes the family look like bleeding heart liberals. Trevor is a good person, Rachel said, her voice stronger now. And there's nothing wrong with caring about the environment. There's everything wrong with making a spectacle of yourself, carrying signs, chaining yourself to trees, getting arrested at protests. I've never been arrested. Yet. It's only a matter of time with the crowd you run with. No, if you want access to that college fund, you'll need to clean up your act completely. New friends, new boyfriend, new interests. Something more appropriate for a young lady of your potential. I stood up so quickly that my chair scraped against the floor. We're leaving. Sit down, Megan, Victoria said sharply. We're not finished discussing this. Yes, we are. I threw my napkin on the table and reached for my purse. Rachel, let's go. Rachel gathered her things with shaking hands. As we headed for the door, Victoria called after us. You can't provide for her the way I can. You know that. Community college is perfectly respectable and much within your budget range. I paused at the door, my hand on Rachel's shoulder. Her name is on that account too, Victoria.
Legally, you can't just steal her money. Victoria's laugh was sharp and humorless. Try me. We walked out into the cool evening air, leaving Victoria sitting alone with 3 untouched dinners and the wreckage of what was supposed to be a celebration. In the parking lot, Rachel finally broke down. She can't really do this, can she? The money, it's for my education. It's mine. I pulled her into a hug, my mind racing. I don't know, sweetheart, but we're going to figure this out. Even as I said it, I knew the truth. Victoria had planned this. The timing, the public setting, the legal maneuverings, it had all been carefully orchestrated. She'd waited until Rachel was accepted to Northwestern, until our hopes were at their highest, to pull the rug out from under us. But why? What did she gain from destroying her own granddaughter's future? As we drove home through the darkening streets of Willowbrook, I realized that I was about to find out exactly what my mother was capable of, and I had a sinking feeling that the college fund was just the beginning. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had long gone cold, staring at my laptop screen in disbelief. The education savings account showed a balance of $0. Not pending withdrawal, not frozen, 0. Rachel had barely slept. I'd heard her moving around her room all night, probably researching student loans and scholarship deadlines. At 18, she was trying to solve a problem that shouldn't have existed, a problem created by the one person who was supposed to support her dreams. I called the bank as soon as they opened at 9 a.m. Seabrook Federal, this is Jennifer speaking. How can I help you today? Hi, this is Megan Torres. I need to check on some recent activity on my education savings account. The number is 4472889344. Let me pull that up for you, Miss Torres. I see you're listed as a joint outcome holder with Victoria Caldwell.
That's correct. Can you tell me about the withdrawal that was made yesterday? I see a complete withdrawal of $47,283.16 made at 2:15 p.m. yesterday at our downtown Willowbrook branch. The funds were transferred to account number 8847-2233-1158, which appears to be a private savings account under Ms. Caldwell's name only. My stomach dropped. Victoria had cleaned out the account just hours before our dinner. She'd sat across from us eating salmon and delivering her ultimatum, knowing that the money was already gone. Was my authorization required for that withdrawal? I asked, though I suspected I already knew the answer. No, ma'am. As joint account holders, either party can make withdrawals without the other's consent. That's how the account was set up. I thanked Jennifer and hung up, my hands shaking slightly. 18 years of savings, gone with a single bank transaction. But more than that, this had been planned. Victoria hadn't made an impulsive decision at dinner. She had gone to the bank yesterday afternoon, cleaned out the account, and then invited us to a celebration dinner so she could watch our dreams crumble in real time. Who does that to their own granddaughter? My phone buzzed with a text from my sister, Lauren, who lived 3 hours away in Cedar Falls. Mom called. Said you had some kind of argument at dinner last night? What happened? I stared at the message, wondering how much Victoria had told her. Lauren was 2 years younger than me, married to a successful contractor named Keith, with twin boys and a comfortable life in the suburbs. She'd always had an easier relationship with Victoria, mainly because she'd never needed to ask for help. I called her back. Megan, what's going on? Mom was really upset when she called this morning. Lauren, did she tell you what happened? She said Rachel was being disrespectful at dinner last night, and you overreacted. Something about college plans? I took a deep breath. Lauren, she withdrew all the money from Rachel's college fund. $47,000. Gone. That can't be right, Lauren finally said. Why would she do that? Because Rachel has a boyfriend Victoria doesn't approve of, and because she participates in environmental activism. According to Victoria, that makes her unworthy of a college education. But that's Rachel's money for her future. Tried telling Victoria that.
Lauren was quiet for a long moment. There has to be more to it, Megan. Mom wouldn't just steal Rachel's college fund over a boyfriend. The word steal hung in the air between us, and I realized that Lauren couldn't quite bring herself to believe that our mother was capable of such deliberate cruelty. Lauren, I'm looking at a bank account with zero balance. Victoria admitted she moved the money to an account under her name only. She said Rachel has to prove herself worthy before she'll release it. Prove herself how? Break up with Trevor, stop caring about the environment, basically become a different person, someone Victoria approves of. Lauren trailed off. I could practically hear her trying to process this information, trying to reconcile it with her image of our mother as difficult, but not malicious. I know it sounds insane, but I was there. Rachel was there. This is what happened. Maybe she's just trying to teach Rachel some kind of lesson. You know how Mom is about responsibility and values. There it was, the same rationalization I'd been making my entire life. Victoria wasn't cruel, she was just passionate about teaching lessons. She wasn't manipulative, she just had strong opinions about right and wrong. She wasn't stealing from her granddaughter, she was just trying to guide her toward better choices. Lauren, if Keith's parents had taken the twins' college money and demanded they change everything about themselves to get it back, how would you react? Another long silence. That's different, she said finally, but her voice was less certain. How is it different? Keith's parents wouldn't do something like that. Exactly, because normal grandparents don't hold their grandchildren's futures hostage to force them into compliance. After we hung up, I realized that Lauren's reaction was probably typical. People who hadn't lived with Victoria's particular brand of emotional manipulation couldn't quite believe it was as bad as it seemed. They assumed there must be more to the story, some reasonable explanation that would make sense of unreasonable behavior. But I knew better. I'd grown up with Victoria's conditional love, her elaborate systems of reward and punishment, her ability to frame every act of selfishness as concern for others. The college fund wasn't about teaching Rachel responsibility. It was about control. I spent the rest of the morning researching our legal options. The consultation with attorney Martha Blackwood wasn't encouraging. Unfortunately, joint account holders generally have equal access to funds, she explained over the phone. Unless you can prove that the money was specifically designated for Rachel's education in a legal document separate from the bank account agreement, Victoria likely had the right to withdraw the money. But it was Rachel's college fund. That was the entire purpose of the account. I understand, and morally, you're absolutely right. But legally, the bank account agreement is what matters. If Victoria's name was on the account as a joint holder, she could withdraw the funds. So we have no recourse? You could potentially sue for the money, claiming it was held in trust for Rachel's benefit, but that would be expensive and time-consuming. And without documentation proving the specific purpose of the funds, it would be difficult to win.
After hanging up, I sat in my car in the law office parking lot, feeling utterly defeated. Rachel would be home from school soon, hoping I'd found some way to fix this. How do you tell your daughter that her college dreams have been stolen by her own grandmother, and there's nothing you can do about it? That's when my phone rang. Victoria. Megan, I think we need to talk. I think we said everything we needed to say last night. Don't be dramatic. I'm trying to help Rachel, even if you can't see it. Help her. You stole her college money. I secured it until she proves she's ready for the responsibility. There's a difference. The casual way she said it, as if financial manipulation was just good parenting, made my blood pressure spike. Rachel has proven herself every day for 4 years. Perfect grades, extracurricular activities, part-time job, volunteer work. She earned that scholarship to Northwestern through her own hard work. Academic achievement isn't everything, Megan. Character matters more. And you think you get to judge her character? Based on what, exactly?
based on her choices, the boys she's dating, the causes she supports, the attitude she's developing. Rachel is at a crossroads and she needs guidance. She needs her college fund restored. Victoria sighed as if I were being particularly dense. The money will be there when she's ready for it, but first, she needs to show some maturity, some respect for family values. Whose family values? Because mine include supporting my daughter's dreams, not holding them hostage. Your daughter is 18 years old, Megan. She thinks she knows everything, but she doesn't. In 5 years, she'll thank me for this. In 5 years, she'll be graduating from Northwestern with a degree that opens doors you can't even imagine. Unless you destroy that opportunity out of spite. It's not spite, it's love. Sometimes love means saying no. I thought about that conversation for hours afterward. Victoria genuinely seemed to believe that she was helping Rachel, that her manipulation was a form of tough love. But I'd seen this pattern before growing up in her house. Victoria's love always came with conditions, with hoops to jump through and standards to meet that somehow always shifted when you got close to reaching them. The truth was becoming clear. This wasn't about Rachel's character or values. This was about Victoria's need to control, to be the one who decided what was acceptable and what wasn't. Rachel had committed the sin of being independent, of making choices without asking for permission, and now she was being punished for it. But as I sat there in my kitchen that evening, waiting for Rachel to come home from her shift at Moonbeam Coffee, I realized something else. Victoria had made a crucial mistake. She had assumed I would fold the way I'd always had before. She had counted on me to pressure Rachel into compliance rather than fight for her. Victoria had bet that 18 years of being the responsible daughter, the one who didn't make waves, meant that I wouldn't make waves now. She was about to learn how wrong she was. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.